So a little bit more on why this topic, I picked this topic, the motivation behind it. In one of my mentoring sessions to one of the schools, I was asked this question that what would I do different if I were to start my career again now in the oil and gas industry? And there was a sub question that will I start in the oil and gas industry? If yes, then will I be in, if yes, will I be a petrotechnical expert? So those were sub questions within the question. But the catch phrase over here was that I wake up tomorrow, for example, and I am 25, but I have the experience of my 32 years. So what will I do different? So it is not that in time to change what I could do if I knew then what I know now. It is, I know now what has happened and what could happen. So how will I act? So my in general audience was people who are making that call early in their career, getting in, or mid-career, that oil and gas industry. So that was the question that I had in my mind. And so I started to think aloud on, okay, here I am, waking up again, 25. I have to, what is this digital world? So I'm portraying in front of me, what is this world? So I know what is this world that I'm entering. And this digital world also called the I 4.0 or Industrial Revolution 4.0. So that was, what is it? Second one that comes out of it was, there have been many ups and downs, but the last, we had a major down a month ago, even ago. We are recovering from it, but this one probably going to link very closely to whatever happened in 2014. So going back on 2014 gas industry, what has changed the environment now? So I prepare myself for this environment. So I'm going to think a little long note. Then I will come in the role of a petrotechnical expert for what I know so far, what it has been, and then try and adapt it to the new environment in this oil and gas industry, and go from there. So these are my thought processes, and I'll try and share with you in the next 2 hours or so these 4 elements. Hopefully, the first 2 elements should be covered in an hour. So if I were seeing you face to face, I would have been asking you questions that help me to know whatever I think you know, you can understand, are you feeling the same way or not? Are we on the same wavelength? But right now, on when I cannot see you, my faith is going to take over. So my faith is that hopefully I'll bring you on the same platform where I am. And then time given, we will have the Q&A as well, right? So this is the way I have put together my thought process, and I'm going to share with you. So Industrial Revolution 4.0. Now, if it is 4.0, it means there is probably a 3.0, there is probably a 2.0, there is probably a 1.0. So if I was with you physically, I would have asked, Francisco, can you tell me what is 1.0? When did it start? Or James, can you say, or Adil, can you give me some clue? So Adil might have told me that Shahid, the Industrial Revolution 1.0 actually started somewhere in the midst of 18th century. And the key enabler for it was power that we were getting from steam. We understood how to convert the steam power into mechanical parts that we have, and all of a sudden our machines started to work for us. And we were not doing the laborious work, machines started to do, so our efficiency started to gain. And that was our production methodologies changed, we started to put factories, and that was the start of the first industrial revolution. Moved on, now we are getting into the second half of the 19th century. Thomas came up with the electricity. All of a sudden, light bulbs are on. We can now make use of that power also. Railroads were put in. And instead of just relying upon water as the carrier for our transport, railroads changed the way we transport things. Then telegraph came. How we communicate. So commute was from the railroad, communication came in from the telegraph, and the combination of the 3 made us all transfer the technologies and ideas and manpower and goods much more efficiently, and new things started until we reached the first major hurdle, which was the First World War. So at that point, hurdle actually made us think again on whatever we have learned so far, what are we going to do different now? And things evolved and things kept on growing. Cars came in and all the other stuff which was happening, airplanes and blah, 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 until computers came in. So here we are, Industrial Revolution 3.0, end of the last century, and computers made us start. We don't have to solve diffusivity equation the way we were solving. And we could go and do a lot more stuff. So efficiency took over, our lifestyle started to change, our jobs started to change thanks to computer, which was becoming smaller and smaller, but its footprint was becoming smaller and smaller in the physical sense, but its footprint in all the other senses was becoming bigger and bigger. It was taking us over, taking over us. Now, taking forward, now comes the buzzword, which is 4.0. And this is where, again, I could and should have asked, looking around, Mulham, what is 4.0? And actually, it started, the dawn of 4.0 in January 2007. It's a finite date. That is the date when the 4.0 was born. So what happened? So, Mulham would have said, Shahid, remember that? This was where Steve Jobs came in and showed us his gadget. And that gadget started a new age, the iPhone age. Completely changed the way we were living, we were working, we were thinking. What it did to us, some of the elements, for example, GPS. We grew up with maps, AAA maps, whatever maps, and all of a sudden, GPS brought not just the 2-dimension to 3-dimension, because 3rd dimension is hardly used in the GPS on the phone, but the 4th dimension is used a lot, looking forward in time, and then putting all the other things. There is a police, there is a radar, there is this thing, and we started depending upon the GPS. We don't carry anything else. Then the way we were communicating with each other, it was not going in series anymore, where a message will be sent, it will come back. These are all mass with a lot of people at the same time, and 2, 3, 4-way dialogue is ongoing. Then autocorrect came. Now word processors brought the autocorrect to us. What word processor did, and the question I would have asked to Chris, for example, that Chris, is word, has it helped us or hurt us? Because it has both sides onto it. So the people who were shy from writing, most of us, we became writers because this word processor with the autocorrection allowed us to write the right words, correct spelling words, simply. Now, the downside of it was people who actually were writing, they loved to express themselves through writing, because writing is not writing words. Writing has a lot to do what have you written between the words and between the lines, and how you allow readers to read and think beyond the lines. Word processors have started to feed words into our mouth. I started to type A and it says apple. Okay, I was not thinking about apple, but my thought process is broken by the who makes me take the path which was not the untrodden path I wanted to take. So the true writers write by rewriting, but autocorrect took that thing out of it. So in general, the C performer became a B performer, and an A performer also became a B performer as a writer. But overall, it is a good thing that has happened. The appiness, the apps, the world, it is this gadget. It's not just for the basic thing that we do for a phone. It allowed people to bring in ads, and through the apps, businesses started. And this is what is all happening now, that this platform allowed us to grow businesses which we never thought about. With Salim, I grew up in a family, in a society where the day I'm born, there is a stamp, oh, I'll be an engineer or I'll be a doctor, and if nothing happens, then I will take arts and I will become, maybe worst case scenario, a teacher. or somewhere else in something else. But the stamp was given to me right away. But now I can kids, what do you want? Actually, my kids have jobs now, and their jobs have nothing to do with my thought process, because they are family and they will create their own. They are new entrepreneurs and they will have their own world. Another thing that these gadgets have done for us, thanks to Facebook, thanks to the WhatsApp to a certain extent, but Facebook in particular, it created another identity. I have a life, which is my life, hopefully, and there is a life that I'm living for the others. And there is this dilemma: who am I? And we live for the others rather than living for ourselves. But the selfie mode took over and started to think again, change again the way we were living. And now we got about slow fees. That's the iPhone, thanks to it. Music relived. We went through the music of the historical music have become accessible again. And now my kids have the gadget all the time, and I'm not sure what they are doing, but they say, well, this helps me. I'm listening, but I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking about what is happening, and I'm doing multitasks. We are always on. If this thing switches over for whatever reason, all of a sudden, I have an identity crisis. My life has stopped. What has happened? How am I going to work? How am I going to live? This is my heart is here, my mind is here, everything is here because it is of the connectivity. So we are on all the time for no reason. It seems so odd that every couple of minutes, if not seconds, I have to look at what has happened in the world. Whatever is happening in the world is happening, but somehow it has changed the way I think. Our attention span has changed. Now, the tablets, the watches, the handphones, all of those things coming in. My watch now, this one that I occasionally use, and I have a few others, which are more my jewelry now, because I don't use a lot of old things, but we started to bring those things. Headphones, yeah, there are 4 different types of headphones that I have over here, but headphones is another market, another way we have new things have started. In all, at the bottom line, what it has done, because it is tracking every info at the data level, it has put the digits in this digital world that has started with the iPhone 8. So this digital world has on the other side, yes, connectivity. Basic rule on data: whoever owns the data is the king, right? So connectivity is a must, because without a connectivity, yes, and we'll come more on the connectivity later on. Data security, same thing, the privacies and identity thefts and all the other stuff. But that's a side that has to be taken care of. That's another side. The benefits, pros and cons come with it. And the scalability. For example, Zoom is allowing us right now that all of a sudden we can communicate verbally, physically, or virtually, acoustically, and simultaneously, and grow it. My schools have stopped in a matter of 2 weeks. The kids who were supposed to go and physically sit in their classroom are now sitting at home, having their virtual classroom. So it can scale up, it can scale down, it can take a lot of other phases in life. So on that note, I will move now. So yeah, that's a point. Through the data, through the connectivity, our life taken over by quite a few things, or we manage quite a few things the way we look at it, but it is data driven. So as data comes in, analytics come in, otherwise it's chaos. So the last 10 years, I realized the power of data analysis, the buzzword of big data analytics and all the other stuff. And we'll again take a dip into this data analytics as we move forward. But this is what Industrial Revolution 4.0 is doing to us. I'll take a pause just if someone can confirm that you can still hear me and see me.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Am I too loud? Am I too emotional, too passionate? I'm okay.
No, you are perfectly fine.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful.
That's all I need to know. For the time being, that's all I need to know. Okay, I'll continue. Now, move on to the data. Well, data, and data everywhere. What it has done for us. we realized earlier on, 10, 15 years ago, as the data analytics came in, that this data has to be archived properly. If we do not create labeled data lakes, then it is a nightmare to get the data out in a timely manner and make use of it in a timely manner. And it becomes data swamp rather than a data lake. So that concept came in, fair enough. The next thing that was, which is this DIKW. Data has been there ever since the birth of mankind. Data was there. But data goes through, you look at the data, you process it, you QC it, and then you convert that data into information, which means you have put it in a context that you are going to try and make some sense out of it. And that QC part has the 5 elements, which is the 5 Ws. What, where, when, why, who. And perhaps the 6th element, which is the H part, which is the how. And you put those things together to convert that D at the first level into I, the information. And then you apply that information. You start making use of it. And eventually, information starts getting into the knowledge level. And eventually, in general, it's a matter of generations when that best practice evolves out of that knowledge that we have acquired and converts into a wisdom. That's why my grandfather was the wise person and my father was just a knowledgeable person. Because you skip that one and you go in because that wisdom has filtered through that hierarchy, that out of the 1,000 data points, 100 will become information, become knowledge, 1 will be the wisdom out of it. Yeah, that was the hierarchy it was following. So on that note, what this world has done, the digital world, is with the access to data, all of a sudden, and the access in this 3-4-way communication, we started to convert that data to information very quickly. Some were through the filters, and that's where the data analytics is going to come in, and we will again have a little more time onto it. But it has also had the other side where, without filtering information, without applying it, without learning from it, without falling on our faces, we started to think that this information is knowledge. And all of a sudden, we all became too knowledgeable. And this dilemma was, shall I be misinformed or uninformed? Which one is better? Because it goes that way. But anyway, that's one part of the DIKW. Now comes the analytics part. So what this analytics has done to us, it has this 4 phases. Phase number 1, on the inner boundary condition, what you see is descriptive analysis. What happened? You just look back. You're doing statistical analysis. You're trying to figure out what happened. You put the context, where, when. Then you do the diagnostics so that you can go into the why part of it. Now, you move forward. You know the why. You do the predictive analysis. What could happen moving forward? Looking back and trying to look probabilistically, hopefully not deterministically, but you look at your P10s, P50s, P90s moving forward. And eventually, this data analytics, if it has the cognitive thinking and you put the right processes into it, can become a prescriptive analysis. It can tell me beforehand what I should do without me asking for what could happen. Right? So that's again, the wisdom going into that analytics part with the passage of time. What I also learned in the last 5 years or so, essentially our last CEO introduced us to this concept of the 3 states of data. It's cold, it's warm, it's hot. What does it mean? That data which we occasionally touching and using is stored somewhere. Maybe we did a 2D seismic on a SegWire tape, archived somewhere. It's very hard to go in and read it anymore, but still it is in a cold storage. And the same is true for a lot of, I grew up reading Emerita charts. The reports that I had are probably still archived somewhere, or maybe digitized and still archived somewhere in any form, but they are very cold. Or they could be somewhere in the middle where we frequently, and how frequent is another subject, but it becomes warm. But then there is a warm part, a hot part where the data is alive all the time. Now, not just the oil and gas industry, because we will look into the oil and gas part, but generally speaking, and this is the outcome of data analysts who looked around and said, in industries, medical industry, aerospace industry, because they are heavily relying upon data analytics, they realized that 50 to 80% of the existing data is cold. Only 10 to 20% is in warm state, less than 10% is in hot state. Now, I couldn't find the exact words on it, but this was one of the speech given by Ashok Bilani, our last CEO, when he was in the blue chip trying to come up with new small joint ventures that we have over there. It was that in the oil and gas industry, the day a data is born, let's assume I'm a formation tester, so I take that we went, and for those who can understand, apology to those who cannot relate to it, but formation tester is a way you're testing a formation. So I go and I test and I want to know the pressure. So I go to a physical point and I take a pressure value and I look at it. I make use of that one to optimize my mud weight or to know what kind of fluid is there, pressure differential is taking place. So whatever, my reserves, I make use of that data at that point, but afterward, that data become part of another set of data set, a trend, and eventually it dies. I cannot read that data anymore. It is gone. So what Ashok said was, in the oil and gas industry, in general, the data is cold for 98% of the time. Only % of the time, it comes into the hot to warm ratio. And that was the 5 years and behind before that. So in general, the data we acquire today, classically, we use it at that point. We justify why I need to invest in getting that data in the oil and gas industry. We look at it. We have permanent gauges. We have SCADA system. We have a production log. We run whatever we do. We look at it at that point in time. We make use of it at that point in time. And eventually, we hardly look at it. And that is 98% of the time. So much data, which is dead, cold in the oil and gas industry. That was the message that I got from looking back in time on this data part. So what I've shared with you, and let's see how am I doing on the time part. I have covered my item number 1. Now I'll take you on to item number 2. Hopefully that should relate to the oil and gas industry. Now, 2014, unconventionals came in last plus minus footing in the global oil production that we have. My disclaimer number 3, my first-hand experience in the 32 years, first-hand experience is all in conventionals. So my mindset is very conventional in that way. But when I started to go to the unconventionals, I realized that the unconventional mindset is very different. They don't look at a well on its own. They don't treat data of a well. They always look at the cluster. So you buy 10, 20, 30% of the wells as well as the cluster is behaving the way it is supposed to. And you look at the trend from a cluster and use that approach for the next cluster. So it's a very different way. So the last downturn, what it did to the conventionals, the end users of the conventionals, the Shells, the Exxons, and to service providers, the Schlumbergers, the Halliburtons, the Bakers, was I'm not going to go and look at any new well that I will drill the same way as I was doing before the downturn. I'm going to try and make better use of the available data from the existing wells and use my data analytics skills. And instead of data analytics, I will put the data science, so that the data analytics will be coupled with the data scientist, and together they will take that asset and they will start using the lessons learned from the past onto a new well and only acquire the data which is used as a calibration point. Otherwise, we should not. So we started to think different. Then came the cloud part. What cloud did to us. I grew up with geologists on one side, the geophysicist on the other side, the completion engineer, and I could change my role also, but the completion engineer on one side, the geomechanical expertise on one side, the mud properties people, the geochemist on one side. So all of us were working on our own silos. We were all subject matter experts. We were very proud of what we were doing. We would do our stuff, give it to the guy who will do his stuff, combine with what we are doing, integrate. And then if there is something to be changed or there is a non-unique one, then we will work together, but we will work under the principle of integration. What cloud did was it allowed all the data to be shared at the same time. And not just sharing. One person's noise is another person's signal. What does it mean? And I give the example from my LWD world, the logging while drilling world, where a geologist friend of mine whose expertise is to look at images, he's trying to decipher what does this image mean. And then it will talk about the fractures which are there, the bedding which is there, the paths of the fluid migration, the total organic compound, blah, 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 blah. They will look at the images and infer a lot of items out of that image. So they need good quality image data. That is a must-have. If they do not have, so their first filter is this data interpretable or not? And if the answer is yes, they will invest their time and zoom into that data. If they will put it on the side, move to the next data set. Next data set while drilling means the next footage that you are drilling. So they will go in pipe by pipe, foot by foot, whatever that physical means is. Now, if the data is not interpretable, what does it mean? 90% of the probability is that there was a stick slip. Something made, because in the while drilling environment, most of the time the bit is rotating, the tool is rotating, the pipe is rotating. So by rotation, you have a smooth 360-degree rotation, you will cover the whole things around you, and you will have a nice, you open up the whole well on a 2D plan, and you can see 360 degrees images. But if you have stick slip, then you have and skewed data which will not look representative. So the reason for stick slip in general is geomechanical. So the geomechanical engineer who was waiting for the data to come to him or her and then find out, is my overbalance the right way? Is my rugosity the fine way? Do I have to do something different? Is my borehole fluid compatible with the wellbore fluid? And whatever. So the moment geologist said bad data, that was actually the good data section for the geomechanical engineer. And if they have this thing on a cloud and a click opens up the other window for the other guy, look, your data, good data is there. Start working on it. And before the next losses come in, that person will come and say, I'm seeing it simultaneously, different wells in this horizon where something has happened, we have to go and do something. So we become much more efficient and productive the way we were working by collaborating, not by integrating. That was the long story short. Now, combination of the two effects and bringing in the big data analytics part is the industry now today, the asset manager in particular, is not going to look at every time as a geoscientist I want to go and say, oh, formation testing data, or give me another production log, or give me another even completion, I want to complete this way. She wants to have a business case. And until proven otherwise, everything is nice to have as far as new data is concerned. But if you say, oh, give me a one-man week work, so I can work on data analytics of existing data, probably my asset manager will listen to it. So our signals, our key performance indicators have changed now as the managers, as the people who own the finance. That is it wise investment? Otherwise, it's a cost. It's not worth it. Now, I take you on to the other side. Just as an example, and I'm sharing with you excerpts from what was presented by BP Chief Executive Officer. Now, why BP? Because 2010, BP went through a major financial crisis, survival crisis, and they were close to being bankrupt. But they came back, they looked inside, they looked at all their fat, they looked at their muscle, they regained their strength, and what he showed in his speech, what he presented, Mr. Looney, was number one, the change. Our change was number not just for survival. We have to grow. We work in a private industry, and we are a business entity. We have to have our finances. Our books should be greener. I'll come back to that one. So I don't want to sidetrack too much, but eventually he some reason and 6 reasons why BP has to change. Number one, the population is growing. Economically, it's a different world now. So we have to adapt ourselves to this world. We are no longer relying upon energy, and the sources of energy are in various places. Even in the oil, we have the conventional, the unconventional, then we go into the deep water, shallow water, and all the other stuff. The climate change is happening, which means there are issues with the climate change, and we come to the CO2 part, the greenhouse energy part coming in, and gases coming in. And then he talked about the competitiveness, that the renewables are becoming more and more efficient, cost effective, which means we have to compete at a much lower level for them. The governments are becoming stringent in their regulations. And now in this industrial evolution, we have to fuse the digital part with the physical part. And that was the key things that they came. And he gave a vision. What is BP vision? The BP vision was that they would like to be in the digital upstream company, which comprised probably potentially on globally connected physical equipment with people and the digital processes, right? So, and that's what they call the connected upstream. And there were 3 pillars on it. It was focused on agility, it is focused on the digital part, and it is very much focused on the people mindset. We cannot live in the previous mindset and work in the digital world. We will be obsolete, dinosaurs, done. We have to have the people who think collaboratively. They are not scared to share what they do not know, ask what they do not know, and also what they probably know. Because as I was growing up as a subject matter expert, part of me was becoming, oh, I am the godfather. If I share this, I may lose my identity. So I was holding on. And here I am. I'm preaching more, because the more I give, the more I get. Another part of pay it forward. So this was the thing that it came out. Again, what BP showed was they are developing a lot of cloud-based platforms. They are heavily investing into remote centers, which are going to monitor their whatever new wells, old wells. Skill set could reside anywhere, and we are doing the same right now. We are residing somewhere else, and as an outcome of this corona exercise, our lifestyle is going to change. Our companies will adapt and give us the flexibility to work from wherever, and hopefully we will enjoy more staying. A guy like me who was, for me, the nucleus repulsion was the biggest issue. I'm married for 30 years. So on the second day of my normal conventional holiday, my wife would ask me to go to the office and drink my cup of tea and relax and then come back. Then I'm there. And here I am, day number, God knows what, 23, staying at home, seeing her, she's seeing me, and none of us is under the ground. And we have started to accept each other and start appreciating each other and everything that we've given to us in the presence of the job. So the life and job have started to find new meaning. And digital savvy workforce that comes with it. Okay? So this was on the second aspect of digital. Now, I'm going to take you on to something else that is extremely close to my heart. I'm very passionate about. Sorry. This is also what I will come after this one. Green energy is also part of what has changed. If you look at the portfolio of our oil and gas investment now, the way things are evolving, Australia, for example, you cannot go and find a new oil field because you will not be allowed to produce. If you find gas or even gas condensate, you can hide condensate under the umbrella of gas, and you can be allowed to go and produce from it. But if you put it as volatile oil, forget about it. So the CNGs, the compressed natural gas, the LNGs, the LPGs, the gas to liquid, all of those phrases which are C1 to C3, C4 derivatives, and GTL is something which is a little different, where you stitch one carbon, maybe C14, and you bring a C14 only and no flue gases and everything else. But we have started to think on the cleaner part of hydrocarbon, and we started to appreciate the existence and the growth of renewable, that oil and gas industry now is not the primary source of the transport energy and the rest of the things for a long. It is there, but slowly, we will be acting side by side with the others, which means we have to take care of our carbon footprint. Otherwise, we will become obsolete sooner. The greenhouse gases, the CO2 sequestration, and blah, blah, blah. So all of those things are now the buzzword. And I have to understand those if I want to remain a subject matter expert or a petrotech expert in the new age that I am entering. If I don't understand this jargon, then I will not exist, right? So every time we will drill a well or we will acquire a data, and as a service provider, we develop a new technology, somewhere carbon footprint is there, that we have minimized the carbon footprint compared to the previous technology. If not, forget about it. Now comes the part that I'm extremely passionate about. So please, again, let me know if you can see me and hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can see you and hear you both.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And you are still with me.
Yes,
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Now we come to the part that I'm extremely passionate about, and I have been, and looking forward I will be. So, and that is water. Now, on the water part, and I will take you and give you a snapshot of, this is my SPWLA talk about 4 years ago. As the downturn came in, and I had more time to think, and I put this, and at that point the focus was produced oil field water, because all my career until now I have been involved with water, and I was looking at water from, is this water good or is this water bad? And the good and bad has financial description as well, but technically speaking, on a 101 level, if I try, when the well starts producing water, so we call it water cut on the surface, and if I want to reduce that water cut and my oil production also goes down, then that water is part of the same porous media where oil is coming from. They are coming together, which means I have to live with this water. I call this good water because it is directly linked to my oil production. However, if this water is coming from some other source, and I will go more into that one, but and I try to stop, and I find out the source of it and stop that water production, my oil production actually stays constant or perhaps increases, then that water was a bad water and I have to look for it. So all the time in my 32 years, I have been wearing my goggles trying to find out where is bad water so I can go and do something about it. So I'm now going to give you a probably 7 minutes quick one on this good water, bad one, and some other day it will be a 1 hour thingy. So first, again, since this was a 2014-15 time period slide, at that point, the oil production, again, this is just to build the case that we have been producing 90 in time, with 2/3 comes from land, 1/3 comes from offshore, and offshore has the part of deep water slowly growing at that point in time. That was it. Again, 80-85 million barrels of oil. That was the message. However, linking to my passion, which is water, then with this oil, we have been producing water as well. And what you see in blue is the water we have been producing from offshore. In brown is the water that we have been producing from combined together in the industry. We have been producing 300 million barrels of water every day with that 85. And this is conventional. Forget about the unconventional giving us a much bigger oil water or water oil ratio, because here the global average from the known there is 3.5 to 4 barrels of water. Now I look at it again, I was thinking I need to do something about it. So the learning was that when this water comes to us, we have to do something with it. And in general, whatever we do is an investment, and it's this investment was classified as cost because we were trying to, but most of it was classified under the umbrella of a costing. So under the umbrella of cost, our cost over years, 5-year average, was increasing. And if I take that 300 million barrels per day, convert it into an annual production, it is about 110 billion barrels of water every year. So what? And the so what is, in the best case scenario, if I am in a land place where I can easily transport and get rid of that water and make use of it, and I'll come to that part in the next slide, is $1 per barrel is the cost associated with it. If I go deep water or offshore, maybe water cut of 1%, I have to stop my production because I cannot handle it. But in general, the cost is increasing and it is somewhere between $5 to $10. So if I even take $5 per barrel, then on the average in this industry, we spend close to either $100 billion to $500 billion per year on water. And now, where is this thing going? There are 4 major sources of that cost/investment. Most of it is for treating. Before we do anything, we can't just dump it. We have to treat it and get rid of whatever is inside it. It could be, again, source of another discussion. But in order for it to be disposable or reusable, it has to be treated first. So there is a lot of treatment cost that is there. Environmental emissions have been going up and up. That is why also the treatment is going up and up also. Injection, if we were to go back and re-inject it, because we have been depleting our fields, so water is a good source to pressurize, and that water, if it is coming from the same formation, excellent, we may reuse of it. But then you can have a little bit of trucking cost and discharge cost. So my career until now focused on this water was, okay, I'm a doctor, my patients have these wells are producing water, and what is the cause of it? So there is this rule that we have been, that again, wisdom or knowledge, perhaps at the knowledge level, because it's non-unique so far, in certain cases, was if you have a very simple, easy way to diagnose, and what I am sharing with you, let me bring my laser pointer, is this case. Case number 1, there is this vertical well. I have an oil zone, I have a water zone, I have a shale in between. I only completed the well, perforated, good cement job, the brown thing, hopefully, and I perforated, but then I started to produce after some time or whenever, water started to come in. So go and log with the production log or something, and I find out that the water is coming from the hole down below and not from the formation. I can go and squeeze a job over here or cement plug or mechanical bridge plug or something, easy to diagnose, easy to remediate. Maybe I do not have a problem with the hole. Maybe the problem is I have poor cement job. So water was entering behind pipe, but coming behind, entering the lowest set of perforations. So if I run the production log, it shows water entering at the lowest perforation. Now I need something, not just a spinner survey, but something which can read behind the pipe, a water flow log or some heat transfer or noise log that can help me to diagnose where it is slightly difficult diagnosis. Then the cure would be, don't put a plug here because plug is not going to help. You have to go and squeeze the cement. Do something more intrusive on that way. And similarly, it could be that all water table is moving up and there is no shale in between. If that is the case, I may have to reperforate the top part and forget about all the lower portion. I have to think in a different way. Diagnostic is different, cure is different, and so on and so forth. The middle part, so these were the easier first 4 wells. I am not described the 4th. I'm not just going to give you briefly on what these problem types could be. What you see in the problem type 5 and 6 are, as an example, fractured reservoirs, carbonates, for example. The number 5, this is my producer. This is my injector. I'm starting to produce water, and then water is actually coming through the fracture system, and the water is coming. Maybe I did a trace survey to find out the source of it. So you are looking at a pair now instead of a single well to diagnose and then do the cure, which could be cure on this part rather than the cure over here. If I cured the zone which is getting all the water, I can probably cure the well which is producing all the water. Similarly, if my injector actually is aquifer, Now it's a bigger issue because I cannot just go in and cure the same way I cure an injector. Now I have to think in a different way. So difficult way to diagnose and difficult way to cure also, because putting a tracer will also not be a straightforward case. And then there are more difficult environments where you have to actually look at the whole field development plan, and you go and abandon these wells or convert even some of the producers to injectors, and you go into some other pattern of injection, if it is an injection water or horizontal wells, or do something different. So that was the learning that I had in my 32 years. So now I wake up as 25 years and I know all this. And I know that there is a closed loop system where I will take all the learnings, and my objective is reuse the water to the maximum and produce as little water as possible so that I can make money in this industry through oil. That was how I grew up. Now, that's a part that I had until the realization came in, which was also a few years ago, that when we talk about the value of oil, the value proposition of oil and the value of oil, cost is the price of oil is a good indicator in a way.
Give us a few seconds. Shahid, it's maybe having an issue. Salim, you may want to call him on his cell phone.
Salim? Okay.
What do I tell him?
Now we lost him.
Yeah, but okay, just a minute. We lost him for what reason? That's
No, the presentation frozen the, so just freezing on the presentation. So we need to.
Is it from his end because of his net bandwidth issue at his end, or what?
I don't know.
That's possible, yeah.
Ask him to
Because
share
did you
the
face a
content.
problem while I was doing it?
No.
Yeah, Salim, just call him, ask him to just reconnect, try to reconnect, that's it. If he
Okay.
cannot reconnect, then we can't go on.
Okay, let me call him. Okay, just give me a second, please. Yeah, I'm calling him.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be on the, so reconnect on the same link.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's okay. Sometimes this happens in every meeting, somebody drops off, but the main presenter dropping off is just the rare case, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it's just the presentation freeze down.
Yeah, I can hear you on the phone right now, and I know I got
He's back.
kicked out. I've just got back, so hopefully you can see me again.
Okay, you got back again with the same ID. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Now,
man, you could turn on the comments on the side of your screen so you could see that we're still there, and you could see people commenting back at you. So you
okay,
can get some
yeah,
kind of
I can
feedback.
see he's back. So
Yeah,
yes.
instead of verbal or video feedback, you could see text feedback, so you could see if you're.
No, I
we've
was
been texting
completely locked out of Zoom. I had to restart Zoom. So it just gave me a message, Zoom update available. Do you want it now? I said later, and then it allowed me to come back. So
All right, welcome back. Please
thank
continue.
you, thank you. Thank you, sir. So tell me if you can see my screen and slide as well.
No, we didn't see the
No?
slides. You need to start your slides.
Okay, let me go back. Bear with me, please. So there we are. And I come back.
Shahid, we are not constrained with the time. If you need more time, go ahead. Don't rush.
Well, I thank you very much. I hope you are with me though, so then time is irrelevant. So
Okay.
time
As long as
stretches.
you have the time.
Yeah, I'm all yours. I'm all yours. The Friday prayer is still far away. So
Okay.
let,
Okay.
let me share. So share my screen, and it should be right this one. And one click, and hopefully you should be able to see
Yes.
my
No.
desktop.
No. I.
No?
Not yet.
We see your desktop.
Oh, you see my desktop. That's fine. I'm going to now just click on the other one,
Yes.
and
Now we see it.
okay. So there we are.
Except you got it on presentation mode. I mean, there you go.
There you go. You're right.
Okay.
Okay. Now.
So perfect. Thank you, and apology. Everything happens for a good reason. Maybe I required to have a sip of my tea, and you needed to absorb whatever I was going into.
That's right. Okay. Go ahead.
So what we were looking at was the water footprint part. So I'll briefly share with you. And again, this is a subject of another discussion, and I would, and hopefully, let me not borrow from future. I'll with you a few items on the water. So what you see here is a very rich slide. Right? I'm not going to go over the slide with you. It again shows me internet is poor, but fair enough. So what you are looking at on the top left side, it says global water footprint. So water footprint means that, and some of the day we will talk about the green water, blue water, and the gray water. This is the definition of what it means, how you use this water, where is it coming from. There is a small green, and again, let me bring my cursor. Intentionally, the intent is not for you to try and read everything, so don't get too hung up on that one. What it is showing over here globally is the places where we are using a lot more water compared to the places where we are using, and this water is not drinking only. This is water footprint. So there are plenty of subsets under the umbrella of footprint. And I will touch upon a few of those ones. So, but there is a value here, and the value says that about 1240 cubic meter per year per person is the average global water consumption. From a footprint perspective, it's not that everyone is drinking that much or using that much. Indirectly we are. Okay, and then there are some countries who are darker in color, which are more, some countries who are lighter in color, which are using less. For example, US is the top consumer from a global footprint perspective of water, and this 1240 cubic meter becomes 20, because I am a barrel per day guy. This becomes 21.4 barrels per day per person average, and we in US consume double of that. So a lot more. Now, it also says something else here, which is this lower portion, and I zoomed in, that more than 2.8 million people in 48 countries will face the issue of water by 2025, in the next 5 years. Now, we know 2 years ago, South Africa already started to put a quota on their drinking part, on the usage part, not the drinking part, it was the usage part. But there is a lot of indirect usage that comes with it. So, as an example, just I'll give you. I'm a chocolate lover. One of my, I can't resist. Whatever it is, I go for darker one than the lighter one, but still, I'm a chocolate lover, and I realized that 1 kg, and I don't want to eat a kg in one go, but 1 kg of chocolate consumes 24,000 liters of water for its production. I take the footprint where it grew up, the investment that is done for the irrigation, for all the things that it is consuming, eventually comes down to beef. 1 kg of beef, for those who are red meat eaters, 15,500 liters of water is consumed for 1 liter of beef. And take this coffee, for example, which is that spoon of coffee, and I took that coffee over here, and I put the coffee on a coffee cup, because in this cup, there is this 140 caffeine ingredient. In order to get 1 spoon of coffee, the ground coffee that I have, 90 milligrams of caffeine or whatever it is, it consumed 140 liters. But I also used some milk, which consumed another X liters. Sugar consumed another liters. I did use some water also. The energy used to make all this and blah, blah, blah. And in all, it is more than 200 liters of water was used to get 1 cup of coffee. Now, a green tea, for example, brings this 140 down to 60. So I switched on to, and that's not the reason why I'm a green tea guy. I switched on for other reasons, but I was very happy to know that, okay, caffeine, the coffee is more in this. But overall, it was a realization that I need to figure out if I want to survive, not just technically survive, but as a human, I need to survive in this. My next generation has to survive. I need to think about this. So that was another learning moving forward, that I have to keep in mind that I cannot just look at the water wearing my good water, bad water. I have to put the good water part and make that water the same way as oil has grades on API and its calorific value and all the other. Water also, based on its pH, based on its usage value, it could be just for the irrigate. Even it could be disposing of the environmentally pollutants that we have. That's first use of it. Or we can use it to irrigation part, or we can start doing it for our own shower and use at home, or we drink. So it can go up on its importance as well, and its price will change, and its importance and value will change. Right? So that was supposed to be my part number 1. So I was supposed to take 1 hour, and I think I took 1 hour and 4 minutes. So that's part 1. If you have questions, please hold on, because I will try and cover next hour or so. Actually, it'll be less than that. The next aspect, and then we will open up the Q&A part. But please type in, because I'm not looking at the chat window. So for your own thought process, either you write it down somewhere. Don't forget about the questions, because some of these could be questions and should be questions. And hopefully the answer of the questions is within you than me telling you what the answer is. But please do write down those thought-provoking statements that I've made. Now, the role of a petrotechnical expert. I'll take you on to a petrotechnical expert. I'm a petrotechnical expert. Throughout my career, I have been. So I go back in time, and I'll put in front of you an exercise that I did about 15 years ago. I was reaching maybe even longer than that. But I was, close to my 15th anniversary with Schlumberger. So now I was 32, so that was 17 years ago. So at that point, I looked back and said, I'm a petroleum engineer. My bachelor's of petroleum, my master's is petroleum. So I think like a petroleum engineer, and whatever knowledge I acquired from my school years was more on the classical reservoir engineering. And I put a scale of 0 to 10. Again, debatable one. These were my own scales. Everyone can have their own scales. But some 15, 17 years ago, I looked into, in Schlumberger, we have something called SCMI, Schlumberger Competence Management System. And we put skill sets. So I looked at that skill set and said, these 22 skill sets are what I can relate to, and I would like to somehow look at my performance, my potential in context with these 22 skill sets. So those 22 skill sets are here. And when I joined the company, fresh from the university, this is what I was. 10 years down the road, I was more onto the testing side of the business. So I go and do a lot of pressure transient analysis, which made me a sort of a subject matter expert. And I put my own threshold that once in my books I have 8 on a scale of 10, I am a subject matter expert. Again, I have revised those scales time and again. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know much. So my 8 became 7 after some time, but so on and so forth. But Sims, what you see here is my expertise was very much driven by my experience, and that was on the pressure transient analysis, as well as I was involved on the passive formation testing and a little bit of analysis that was done in the application of that passive formation testing. So that is what you see here. Then the next 10 years, I was in Middle East, in horizontal wells, multilaterals, good water. I was the water guy. I was production enhancement person. So my expertise grew a lot more onto the reservoir engineering side of it, from the formation testing and production logging perspective, flow assurance perspective, something to do with the PI of a well, productivity index of a well. I was not a reservoir formation. PI versus recovery factor. So I was not into the recovery that much. Indirectly I was, but I was feeding data to the classical reservoir engineers who were working on recovery factors. But I was closely working with the well site, well borehole centric reservoir engineers, production technologists, petrophysicists, geologists, geomechanical engineers, right? So that was the expertise. So then about 12 years ago, I got this option to move to the logging while drilling world. In the headquarters of this drilling and measurement, there was a big drilling mindset and a small M mindset, which is the measurement. And I'm a reservoir engineer, so I was asked to go and relate to that world. So in order to relate to that world, I had to also understand what is happening on the geology part, on the business aspect, because I am on driller's time period when I am in the LWD world. And by default, as a formation tester, I was stationary, which means I had to justify being stationary in a world where everyone wants to move from point A to point B safely and efficiently. And here I was stationary. So I learned, but I also realized that in order for me to communicate with all of these guys, I cannot be a specialist anymore. I have to be a generalist, but at a higher level. And I'm speaking, becoming a voice of LWD to the outside world. So I had to expand, and that was a choice. I could have chosen to zoom into my formation testing and the only formation tester in the world who knows how to run dual packers in high gas H2S environment in wherever, right? And there are some of me who are doing like this. So that was the choice, but I realized that at the beginning, I need to have an understanding of what is around me. So I should be a generalist. As a petrotechnical expert for maybe 5 years or so, then I should pick up what I actually would like to invest my time in, because I want to become someone, something, and have a tag on to me that says, oh, he is the person to go to if you have that kind of an issue, a concern, or advice that you need. And then made me a subject matter expert and zoomed into it. And I picked 3 subjects. And then I started to realize that if I zoom too much, and these ups and downs are coming in, and for my own personal development, not just job, I don't care about the job. Job is I create my own job. That's the way I look at it. Job doesn't create me. So with that coming in, who do I want to be? And I want to be a specialist, but at a very generalist level, right? So you grow in that way. That is the petrotechnical. Now I'm going to put it together, and I'm going to ask myself and give myself advice on Shahid, if you were to start again, a miracle happened and you're given another X number of years, what will you do different? So number 1, I have to be digitally savvy. I was not before. I was a very deterministic, one-dimensional also. Now I have to be digital. I'm not going to learn Python. I'm not into that. Maybe Adil will be, but I am not. I want to be a data scientist and make use and find the proxy, because A affects B, B affects C, C affects D. All I have is D, and I'm talking about A. And I'm not going to go and find A. I have to find some other means to know it. So I have to understand that workflow. I cannot be a petrotechnical expert anymore. In this new digital world, my stamp, my identity will be a petro digital expert. So I am a petroleum engineer, and I have the knowledge and the skill set to make use of the data in this new world, and that will give me a PDE stamp. I cannot limit myself to the oil and gas industry, because if I specialize in it again, I will be done very soon. My market value is with energy. I take Stanford, for example. If I were to go back to school, I will go to Stanford instead of UT Austin. But UT is also converting in that way, because Stanford now, for the last 4 years, are not giving a degree in petroleum engineering anymore. They give a degree in energy, energy resources and engineering, so ERE. And that makes a big impact. So I will know the skill set in that way. And I need to understand the water, because I have a strong belief that these Shells and Exxons and BPs and all these companies who have been producing oil and have plenty of oil wells which have been plugged in because they've watered out, are actually their resource for water. And they will become the best water producing companies, and Schlumberger would become the best service company in the service to provide clean, reusable water. That is where I need to find myself. So my good water, bad water definition is going to change, and I'm going to look for water where I am going to make use of it in the footprint and help with that. Because oil and gas industry already has so much water that I don't have to go and drill new water wells. Now, on pseudo-technical, more non-technical part, there are a few things that I have learned and I'm going to retain, and those are the traits. My first trait is I would advise myself to be a doctor. Now, what does it mean? I'm not going to become a medical doctor. I've never been a medical doctor, and even I'm not a PhD doctor, because apology to those who are PhDs. For me, I did not think before, and I do not see it today, that PhD is a must-have. It's a nice-to-have for me as a active petroleum engineer. If I wanted to specialize, part of me wants to teach. So at that point, maybe if I realized that teaching is my way to go, doctorate definitely helps. But now I'm talking about the mindset of a doctor, that I treat every well as my patient. And the patient belongs to the company, which is the family. They own the patient, and I am that doctor. My job is to diagnose a problem and cure the problem, and let them have the ecstasies and agonies of that oil well, water well, gas well, whatever well it is. But my job is to be that doctor. Now, I can have the 5 levels of that expertise. Doctor level 1, where in order for me to diagnose a person who died of cancer, I can only do it when I do post-mortem. I open up, I do everything, the person is dead. So my value to that well or that patient is 0. But my value to the family exists, because I am giving them a closure, and maybe giving them a clue that if you realize this was a lung cancer, because it is in you, be careful, don't do the following things. It's anything which is hereditary, be careful on that one. But that was level 5 doctor. Level 4 doctor, and I take cancer as one of the things, because we look at cancer and we take it as a serious, much more serious than the other ailments. So if I am level 4 doctor, and my expertise is as a level 4 doctor, then I will only be diagnosing until I have the data, enough data for a patient that is at stage 4 of cancer, the last terminal stage. So again, by diagnosing a person who didn't know that they have stage 4 cancer, and I told them that they have stage 4 cancer, I'm helping them for them to write their will properly and hopefully exit and transit from this world to the other world in a peaceful manner. That's all I am doing. But I'm not adding the quantity in their life, maybe quality a little bit, perhaps. But if I am level 3 doctor, then I can give them advice that perhaps there's a fair possibility, 80-20, 60-40, whatever, go for chemotherapy, go for something else. You can extend your life quality and quality by doing the following things. Possible. Stage 2 doctor, earlier, but when a patient is stage 2, the time period in 1 and 2 is very short. Person very quickly moves from stage 1 to 2 to 3. 3 has a longer one, and then 4 comes in. So for me to diagnose a patient at stage number 2, I have to have that skill set very sharp one. And I will be using my expertise of data analytics. I will be using it, all the other proxies which will say method of elimination done, scanning done. The person already has, I don't have to do all those destructive text because there's no time for it. And my probabilistic approach will help to find the P90 very quickly. Same is the case with P1, the stage number 1. But now comes the fifth stage, which is for me to exist and become the doctor I want to be, where people come to me, Shahid, we don't have a cancer. Can you tell me that we have a probability of getting cancer? And that, I'm not a magician, I am an engineer, so I have to think. Doctor is an engineer. We all work on cause and effect, but we relate to doctors more than we relate to engineers for whatever reason. That's why I put the word doctor over here. So for me, I would be that engineer / doctor who preemptively know by doing all these analysis that if you don't change your lifestyle, then you are going to get your stage 1 in a matter of X number of months, or years or whatever. So that's the doctor part. The other advice I will give myself is be a chef. Now, what does that mean? And again, the context is I am a petro digital expert moving forward. As a petro digital expert / the petro technical expert I was before, I was special. I was someone, I was the go-to guy. I want to remain that go-to guy. People are going to come to me for their things, but I have to realize, I'm going to give you a small apology, a small story, just cite a story that consider me as the best chef in town. My shop closes at 8 p.m., whatever that time period is. It used to be 10 p.m., so let's say it's 8 p.m. And it's 7:45. I am mentally, physically pretty much done for the day. So I have cleaned everything and I am about to close my shop. And someone enters, a person that I don't know. First time I'm seeing the person at 7:45 to my shop. Now I have two choices. Choice number 1, I give the person the food that I have, good quality food which is left over. I put it, repackage it in a presentable way and humble the guy, and the guy will eat, or the lady will eat the food. And they have two choices. Either they will say, thank you, excellent food, we are extremely grateful, or Shahid, all this for, and I'm confused. I do point number, store number, or scenario number 2. The person comes in, it's 7:45. I was supposed to close at 8, but I am going to go back to I cook the food, I take my 45 minutes, make the best possible food which has my DNA in it, my stamp on it, my signature on it, give it to the guy. The guy eats, and the guy can do 2 things. Thank you, Shahid. Best possible meal, it was worth it. Or all this wait for this, and I'm confused. So 2 scenarios, opposite scenarios, 2 outcomes, probabilities, whatever. So what happened that what was the enabler for all these things to be resolved? And the answer was, again, I would have asked you and you would have said, did you ask the person why you are coming at 7:45 to my restaurant? Is it because McDonald's is closed and I'm the only one open and you came here? Or someone told you that when you visit this part of the town or city, do visit Shahid because he is the best chef. So you came for my food. Had I asked you this question before, I would have either given you the leftover because you were hungry, you just needed food, good quality food, but food, or you came in because you wanted my food. So the key learning is, before I wear my hat of the doctor, the value of information is time and space dependent. I need to understand the timeliness. If the well is under blowout, then I do not have time to go and do all the other analysis I want to do. 80% answer is good enough. Consequence comes in. And sometimes 99.999 is not good enough, because by having that 0.001%, my aerospace, which is the shuttle which is going in, will have a blow up. So I have to put that context in my chef mindset, which is have a pre-job. Ask as a technical, I'm so much focused into zooming in to give the 99.99%, but sometimes 80% is good enough. And I was not brought up in my world as good enough. For me, there is nothing good enough. Raise the bar all the time. So there is something which is value of information, time-based. Another thing, be a lover. Love what you do and do what you love. Heart and mind, they have to be in sync. If they are thinking separate, then it's no use. Then you're wasting your time. Your life existence is meaningless. So job is not a job for me. Job is part of life for me. It is who I am, and I see both the things parallel, and I am in love with whatever I do. And I keep that passion because that keeps me going. Now, I have to understand there is something called work-life balance, another subject of a discussion some other time. Be a dot connector. Being a technical person, being an engineer, cause and effect. We as engineers are living in the world of uncertainty. Job is to understand uncertainty, acknowledge uncertainty, and minimize the uncertainty by coming up with the workflows. So if we are in that mindset that there is uncertainty, and whatever I have said is not coming out of Bible, Holy Quran, it is not word of God, it is my interpretation, which is subjective. And I am looking at the things from my own biased knowledge and deducing some outcomes of it. So it's a P90 at best. The only time it is P100 is when the event is behind me. But if the event is in front of me, it cannot be P100. So it is subject to change. I am joining dots. If I give the same dots to someone else, Salim, for example, he is going to look at it and he will draw a different picture out of it. Even I will draw a different picture when I look at the same dots tomorrow, because I will have some other biased experience with me. So be the dot collector, have full faith in what you are doing, but do not be rigid as a subject matter expert to say that this is it, because there is never it. The tree, the strongest tree is the tree that bends when the strong wind is blowing, but it has the strong roots to stay where it is. If any of those boundary conditions are not there, you will break and you will be gone. So be the dot collector. Now I move to the other side. Color of money. Someone is saying something, because I see a flicker. Is there any? Are you with me?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Is there anything that I need to address right away, or shall I continue?
No, continue.
Okay, thank you. So now, what is this meaning of color of money? We are in a private industry, which means that the value proposal of information, knowledge is time and space dependent. We have to look at it in that context. And what I'm sharing with you is what I advise, especially the people who are joining earlier on and they want to promote themselves as a technical person, but they do not realize that in school, when we learned something, it has a very different connotation of money, of time. Time is money. So I'm actually, when I'm talking money, and I'm talking how I invest my time. So if I look back, if there is an issue, something went wrong, a technology did not deliver what it was supposed to deliver, the well did not produce the way the well was supposed to produce, or the production has started to go down, or whatever has happened, and I look back on data and I try to analyze it, this time I am spending is the time that is focused on reducing red money. That is how I should look at my time, because I should be able to bracket my time and think why I am doing what I am doing. Because if I don't, then I will work like God knows what, a bull around something. I think I'm doing a lot of things, but all I'm doing is running in circles. So I or I may even go on a tangent if I don't realize, and I will realize that the ellipsoid or whatever, my center of gravity was somewhere else, and I've become a free electron if I don't know what my time value is. So I have to plan and look back on my time, and we will probably address that, how often we have to do it. But we have to look at it. Why did I do, or why I am about to do what I am about to do? The second one is green money. What does that mean? There is no problem of, there's no existing direct problem that but there is a potential issue, or there is a limit of existing technologies. So I come up with a completely new technology, for example, and I start educating everyone on that one, and that way you start bringing in a new cash flow into our industry, because we have introduced, and cash flow, I'm not a sales guy, and I will probably address that part right here. As a technical guy, I'm not a sales guy, I'm marketing. Whatever I'm doing with you, thought-provoking, is not there for you to do something, fix a problem right now, but think long-term. My headset is saying battery low, which means I may have to switch over to the laptop soon. But anyway, we'll continue. Now, so green money is no issue, but I am looking at a new IP comes in, think of something else, and you grow that one. Or there's a blue money where I step back, I look at a process, and I say, this process can be improved in its quality, can be improved in its efficiency, can be improved in the safety aspect of it. Any of those, or environmental footprint, what we are talking about, the carbon CO2 footprint or carbon footprint can go down. All of those things will make us think different and do something different. So I'm not going and changing a technology and moving up on a technology. I'm actually introducing a completely new way of thinking, and that is blue money. That is where we are moving. So I have to understand what my time value is. It red? Is it blue? Is it green? And if I understand it to myself, I will make my managers understand the same thing, because we are in this private industry where we live in a world of perception. You take care of me, I take care of you. That was my message to my manager all the time. So I give them, I help them by showing to them in their management mindset what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? And how they can use that into their business context, in the industry context. But this is one message that I will convey to my new me. Next, which I've already alluded to, is on the communication part. Now, communication has multiple aspects. Yes, we live in a world of perception. Do not create perception through deception, because that is fake news. You have to create the perception. Any P50 is P50. If you can show that there is a 50% probability, you don't have to wait for a P90 to be disclosed. You can talk about the P50. You're talking about the uncertainties and the assumptions that go with the P50. But in order to do that, I have to look at those 5 W's and the H, and my most important W is why. Every time I do something, I have to ask the question why. But my why should not be the first W. It should be the last W. Because if it is the first W, I am in this mindset, in this body posture, where I said, why me? Why you are asking me to do this thing? But because then that why is a very defensive posture. It locks down my mindset. But if I have already done all the other 4s, and now with that contextual information with me, I go and ask the question why. Now I am asking for a collaboration workflow, instead of just handing it over to someone else. Oh, it's not my business. And then comes, by knowing all this, most important part. So what? Now that I know this, what am I going to do different? Is it the red money I'm after? Is it the green money that I'm after? Is it the blue money that I'm after? But I have to do that. In order to do all this, and for me to be a lover and do, I have to keep my curiosity alive. why, curiosity, and all the other traits that I talked about go hand in hand because they are part of passion. Now, as a technical person, I have to publish. I have to communicate, and one simple way of communication is publishing, internally and externally. So you publish wherever possible, and there's the buzzword here, MPR, which is monthly progress report. Some organizations, some jobs have by default requirement to write your monthly progress report, which even becomes a cut and paste. You write, I did the following tasks. It's a task oriented, you become a robot, you have no identity. But if you use that end of month as your calibration point on knowledge, and you look back on the last month and say, what did I do in this last month, last month for my red, blue, and green money time period? And then think of what I should do in the next one, because that will lead me to where I want to grow. Then you are using your MPR as a link, as a bridge between your past and your future. Present, yesterday is history, tomorrow is mystery, and today is a gift. That is why it is called the present. So you use the present as your calibration point, and because we are all dot connectors, and we join this. And for LinkedIn, for all the internal, external places, wherever there is CV, it is worth updating your CV on a monthly basis as well. Because there is no, if you don't, then you only think I will only learn enough in 3 months time period. Parkinson's law, work expands to fill in the time available for its execution. So you put the boundary condition. If you say every month you can break it down to every night you sleep, which is what God has asked us to do. Before you sleep, you think on what you did on that day, and you sleep not on a full stop but on a comma. So there's a continuity. And the day you wake up, you say, thank you, God, that you gave me another opportunity. Yeah, I'm happy that you asked me to move on, but if you have given me another opportunity, I will continue and do the following things this day. So you use your CV as also another way to express yourself to whoever, and jobs will follow you. Now, this is one thing which took me some time to realize, the power of tossing the coin. We are, as I mentioned, I'm a probabilistic guy. I'm not a deterministic guy, which means every time I look at something, I ask myself the what if scenario. There is P50s on a lot of things. If it is a P90, it's a no-brainer. If it's a P10, it's a no-brainer. Doubt in general comes when you are P50. Because the other two ends are simple. As long as they are your own. So the question is, it's you don't know which way to go. It's a sliding door. I can go. Sure, shall I not? So what will I do at that point? Let's say A is Siri, B is Alexa, and I don't know. Do I want Siri or do I want Alexa? And I'm in this one. So what I'm going to do, and I'm taking the coin, and I will go and throw the coin, and the coin comes in head, Siri, tail, Alexa. I look at the coin. If it says tail, well, Alexa. But if I have followed this, then that is not tossing the coin. That is, I will forever, I will repent my decision, because I will always think I wish it was the other one. You will never accept the decision because you will blame it on fate, and fate is nothing. Fate is what you create. So what happened then? What was the tossing of coin? The tossing of coin was the moment I toss and say head, Siri, tail, Alexa, I throw the coin up and I close my eyes. The moment I close my eyes, I am letting my heart and my mind talk to each other, because the P50 was, they were not agreement. One says Siri, one says Alexa. Siri, Alexa, eventually one takes over and I say, I hope it is Siri. The moment hope comes in, I don't have to look at, I open my eyes, forget about the coin, the decision is made. I made my own decision, and that is the key. You own your decision. So you help your heart and mind to talk to each other, because we have been living in this world where things have been coming so fast that we don't have time to let them speak. Water in general, God allowed us to take a sip before we send our email. That was a basic rule, because emotions, rational, irrational, you can be irrational. In order for you to filter to rationality, water is one simple coolant. If not, sleep on it. Another basic thing. So if you have the luxury to sleep on it, your subconscious will take over, which is a good way for your heart and mind to talk. And when you wake up in the morning, your answer is there. So if not, then toss the coin, right? Because you want someone to help you. And that someone should not be your mother, your father, your peers, whoever it is you. That's the key. Last but not least on that one, actually second last. What I realized in my last 10, 15 years in particular, especially last 5 years, is the power of pray. Francisco mentioned on the pray part, and I'm a firm believer on the pray part. Pray is my calibration, is my solitude. For me, and you have to find your pray, the way you pray, the moment you pray, the frequency of your pray. But that pray is, for me, it is when I bow my head and I put it on the floor. And at that moment in time, I zoom out of everything and I connect with the infinity, and it's me and the infinity, and infinity and beyond takes over. That's my Star Trek moment. And that gives me, my priorities are all aligned. My stars are all aligned, because I know that what is my big thing? Why I'm doing what I'm doing? Is it worth it? And eventually, the key element of the prayer, there is a pre-job, there is an on-job, and there's a post-job part, is when you raise your hand and you ask for something. And asking should become the minimum time period. There was this question on the CV, the 3-second CV, and that is where it comes down to ask one thing only. In Arabic, we say life is a balance between fikr and shukr. What you think, tafakkur, the thought process, and shukr, the gratitude. It has to be a balance, because if there is no balance, one takes over and then you are done. The other part of that calibration point on that shukr and fikr moment part is, you ask the infinity one thing only. What is that thing? For me, in English, it is 3 words, but in Urdu or Arabic, it is sukoon. It is peace of mind. Give me peace of mind. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, I will try my level best to do this thing, but allow peace of mind to be embedded into it, or stop me from doing it. You know what it is, and give me the ability to accept the consequence if it is not the outcome I was asking for. Because if not, then I have no faith in you. And they go hand in hand, because what is faith? Faith is to have the consequence acceptance. So pray is a must, and I will do much more in that calibration point as I move forward, because it helped me to calm down and think, and clarity came into everything. I became not just a work hard part, but a work smart part also. Last but not least, life is there to enjoy. Work is there to enjoy, and that's why a job to me is a meaningless thing. It is work. Work is part of my life. They go hand in hand. And I would keep on telling myself, the first thing you should do, and the last thing, well, the first thing you put on and the last thing you take off is smile. Never lose that. Enjoy every moment. Don't live for the moment, live in the moment, because they are connected. Otherwise, they are never going to come in. So on that note, that life is beautiful, alhamdulillah. And we are blessed that we are allowed to enjoy the life the way we were supposed to. In the last 2-3 weeks, we were in the rat race, and all of a sudden, God has given us this great opportunity to recalibrate ourselves and say, what actually you want? 2 of my colleagues, we are going through internally on Shlambaje on restructuring and whatever, and some of the people who stepped in and said, I think it is, I've enjoyed. One guy, he's in Colombia right now, and I'm citing yesterday's my communication with him. That my team, I was discussing, okay, give me one thing, one positive thing. So we start the discussion. Give me the one positive thing that has happened. Everyone has a lot of things that they wanted to do but didn't happen. But let's start with one positive thing. And he said, Shahid, I am living with my mother-in-law right now. I have my wife and my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law. His daughter is studying somewhere else. So those are the 4 people. And it's a very small 1-bed place in Colombia. And here he has his own stuff. So he said that what has happened now is we had lunch, which was 2 hours. We talked. We just talked. And in Houston, my lunch was 10 minutes. And it was not lunch, it was lunch on the run. And now I enjoy. And he sent in his email that if there is a way for him to get an early retirement, he will go for it. What has happened is he reprioritized himself and said, what do I want? Do I want to do something different? Do I want to enjoy? So things, I did the same thing on my part also, but each one of us is given this blessing. The carbon oxygen ratio, beautiful. Spring is the time. The trees are everywhere. The greenhouse effect has dissipated so much. I'm sure in my hometown in Lahore, we may not see this year the smog that we were having every year. Maybe fog will be there, but not smog anymore. So plenty of pluses that have come in. And each one of us, we don't have to wait for external boundary condition like COVID-19 to come and make us realize. We should be able to do it ourselves every day, if possible, and re-energize ourselves for the next moment which is given to us. So on that note, thank you very much.
You are very welcome, Brother Shahid. Jazakallah khair.
Ameen.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you. my family, now we have in our house, we have made this, my study as the conferencing room, but both my daughters, they are also working and they have their videos. So time and again, someone will come and tell me, Abba, calm down. That is, so I can't calm down as long as I've told them, look, if I'm alive, if you see me move, you have to see me moving, and my body language is there with me. So anyway, so thank you for.
We appreciate your passion, Brother Shahid.
It is contagious. So I hope.
But it's very well needed right now. So again, we appreciate it very much.
So let's open for Q&A, please.
Thanks a lot, Shahid. We
You're very
appreciated that you took the time to come over and make this presentation to us, and hopefully the other one of yours will hear from you at a future date,
Inshallah.
face to face, and we can interact more than we can have the interaction today.
Fair enough, sir. I'm trying to see where is it that I can see the pictures. I cannot see any videos anymore.
Well, I think
Yes.
facilitator.
Okay, but are there any questions, please?
Yeah, let's Alex do the questions, please.
Yeah, I'm looking here. I don't see any questions. There were just a few comments, a lot of thank yous that I'm sure you can read. But I don't see any questions. There was one that I think was answered, but the question was what was that? What was the origin of the money used in your presentation, of the color of money?
In the physical sense.
Yes, from which country that
Okay, that in the physical sense. Yeah, yes. Being a Pakistani, I'm a Pakistani-born American Muslim. Okay, so I use these four traits wherever possible. So this was my opportunity to bring Pakistan, if possible.
Okay, and
so Shahid, you talk about publications, internal, external. CVs. I mean, how much of those? A lot of people who are working in the oil companies, not the service companies. You have the luxury who are working in the service company to publish quite a bit. We have seen publication from Halliburton, Schlumberger, and others. But for example, some companies like ExxonMobil, they will never allow you to publish anything. Shell will never allow you to publish anything because these are all internal publications. How do you make the external publications so that other people know about it? There's a lot of constraints and limitations. Go ahead.
Grass is always green on the other side. What we in the service industry believe, again, it's a perception that oil and gas companies, they have the luxury to publish. We have the constraint. We need data released before we are allowed. Whereas oil and gas companies, they can get the data release in a much simpler way. So if I only look at my own publications, out of the 30 publications I have, 24 publications are with oil and gas companies. And they were, half of those were presented oil and gas companies. They were the one, I float the idea that this is what we have done, but it goes from there. And I take formation testing, which is a key subject. Most of formation testing publications actually are come from Shell. They are perceived in the formation testing world as the pioneers of new methodologies. So whether it comes to reservoir fluid geodynamics, there is Mohammed Hashim, there is Khani Al-Shahavi, there is Chang Li Dong. There are some of those godfathers and a lot of others. They promote, and there are plenty of publications. We try to get them with us, but normally they lead most of the time. So it's both sides. There are certain things which, when a new technology is coming in Schlumberger, in order to market it, in order for it to be shared, I cannot show a Shell person a new technology data if it is coming from ExxonMobil and I do not have a data release. So the best way for me to do that is for it to be published somewhere so I can get it into the public domain. Okay, that's one reason why service companies would like new technologies to be published as much as possible.
Right.
But on the other hand, data resides with the oil company, and if we do a normal search, you will see in SPE more papers are now coming in from the universities, especially in the last 7 years, data analytics, or oil and gas companies, China in particular, and then service companies. And in service companies, probably 75%, and I'm biased, are coming from Schlumberger, because in us, for technical people to get promotion, we have to publish. If we don't, and there are some of us who work in confidential information, we are researchers, we are coming up with IPs. So for us, we publish internally, but anyone who can be working on the outside is pushed. So my job as a leader in this discipline career that I have in Reservoir, I push my reports and my followers to go and publish and allow them and hope and make them publish. So we have a culture to publish, but we cannot publish unless and until we are in bed with an oil company, most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Right? You're welcome.
Alex, any
That's
other
a culture
questions?
also. Yeah, please.
Alex, any other questions?
I have another one if nobody else has one.
Go ahead.
My next question to Shahid, a lot of people who are attending your session today through Paid Forward Network is really a members in transition, which means these are the people who has many years of experience of working in the oil industry, anywhere from 10 to 30 years plus.
Correct.
And however, at the moment they lost their job, they're looking for the next job. Now we're in a digital world where things are changing. A lot of these people who are really baby boomers, such as you, did not have exposure like you towards going towards data analytics. So on the other hand, if they want to get quickly integrated in the system, because without some experience of data analytics, I think it is very hard for some of these people to get back to the jobs. So what is the easiest and fastest and quickest way for these people to get into data analytics? Like, Eno is getting into that at the moment after she did even her, what is it called? MPP, right?
NAO?
LBPMP.
Yeah, and then because with that one, it didn't help her, so she's now retraining herself to become a data analytic lady as well. So in that case, what are your recommendations, suggestions for us?
Okay, fair enough. Fair point. Now, before I answer directly, now you mentioned something, and my smile will always be there, but this is a double smile right now. And you have baby boomers like you, and you have done it 2 times so far, maybe 3 times. To put that thing, I take it as a compliment. But what is a baby boomer? You put me and not with you, so I am now in a different bracket than you. So what is a baby boomer in your definition, so that I understand what you're expecting from me?
Well, baby boomers are those, I think, who were born after the Second World War, probably. Some of the early baby boomers, some are late baby boomers. You and I perhaps are in the late baby boomers stage. So those who, I think, up to 1960 who were born, they fall under the category of baby boomers.
Okay.
So many of them
Okay.
who are MIT members in transition, probably, I believe, there are not that many. Well, there are younger folks as well in our paid forward network, but how many of them are here, I do not know.
Right. That I believe that,
Many
that
I
was.
know are really at that, in that age bracket I mentioned to you.
Yeah, I don't. I cannot see, and I didn't have the luxury right now to find out what experience level is here. So I know that members in transition, but my first reaction is that less than 20% of the population is born before 1960. They are all born after 1960 on the 32 participants who are there right now. I could be completely wrong. I don't think it's a 50% population, but it could be. I will, whatever it is. But I think there are more people in this forum right now who have dialed in, and they are younger than 1960.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, it's fair enough. It doesn't matter whatever it is. But yes, my inspiration for this talk was primarily in 2014 when the downturn hit, and we were not traveling anymore. And I've been blessed to be in a job where I travel a lot. So from 2014 to 2017, I was giving lectures to a lot of universities. And this was again my own passion that I wanted. I'm a Longhorn, and I've been going to UT since 2009 to every semester. I'm from Shambhaja side, the ambassador for UT, so it allowed me to do that way, and I'm giving lectures over there. But since 2014, since people were not moving and all industry was going down, the students were spiraling down. Their interest level was going down. They were confused that we have picked up the wrong industry. Maybe there's no future. So with that in mind, I started to reach out to these universities, and then virtual came in as well. And the main message was for these mid-careers or the young engineers, what do you have to do different now? Because the things are changing, right? So that was it. Now, when your talk came in, I realized that this is a different audience. This is an audience who definitely have more years of experience, and there is this question mark on how much change you can afford. I cannot change passion. It's easy for me to influence a person who is willing to change, because will is yours. So if and age becomes, if you are willing to change, there is no age limit. If you're not willing to change, then my 14-year-old as of today, for him, he knows everything and he's not willing to change, but he will realize it's just that's another phenomena which is ongoing. So bringing on to the group, and I'm putting myself, that's all. I know that I will not be 25 when I'm born. I will be what I am. I am 57. So as 57, I may have X number of practical years, but in my job, whenever it comes, the thing would the reason for me to, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So let me.
Did you find that thing? What was it?
Oh, okay. I think there was
You
a
go ahead. You go
background.
ahead. Background.
So So stage one. Now, there are still, whatever your skill set is, if your skill set, if you are if I with your skill set, if there are 10 other people who have a similar skill set, and you are, there's nothing that makes you unique, now you have to change your skill set, adapt your skill set for sure. So I don't know about the past part, but you can reconfigure your skill set that it now has to be morphed with this data analytics part. So there are a few people who are still learning Python, and then they can find their way. I will not advise that. But if I go to Coursera, and that's what I've done myself, and I'm asking whoever is possible, Coursera is a very simple way for me to understand what is happening in data analytics. So I've upgraded my knowledge of data analytics and trying to bring it into the data science, because my expertise is science, and I want to go in and I want to pick up the buzzwords which are available in different people's CV or different job opportunities which come. So I look for those words and said, what do I need to learn about that word, and can I use that learning to relate to? Because if I cannot relate to that learning, I will sleep on it and I will forget about it. So I need to relate to that learning. Unconventional. The moment it came in, as a formation tester, I couldn't relate to it because formation testing is not applied. But the mindset, then I can bring my own knowledge and said, okay, I am there to couple the information, and as coupling, I will move to a higher level. I will not do the basic work, but I will be able to find a job where a team will be working in that direction, and I can work with developers to develop some new answer products, because I can think as an answer product. Applications, answer products. So you have to, Coursera is one simple way. Again, I'm not the PNP, I'm not too familiar on what do you gain on that way. Probably this is zooming in, but this is where I am bringing the technology part. Energy is my second one, because I need, and those are my key objectives, that I have to think in the energy business, because there are more and more opportunities coming in now. And maybe I will work as a consultant, where someone will bring me to bridge the gap between the non-hydrocarbon part and the learning from the hydrocarbon part. And I think people who can, you were talking about investment, and I don't know, some of us are going to look at the opportunities on people who are going to invest into water growth. So there are opportunities which are not the classical opportunities. So if someone wants to go and do another field study, there will be very few people, few organizations who will ask for classical field studies anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes on each person finding out what is it that you relate to, and what is it that you can make you the go-to person. If you can't make yourself a go-to person, then you have to relate to something, and you have to become that go-to person and own that thing in a very short period of time, which means you have to invest, and you can't go anywhere right now. So zoom in. Coursera is open.
Yeah, that's right.
Pay it forward. May I have permission to make a few comments?
Please.
Let's finish with the questions.
It's knowledge sharing.
There is.
Yeah, there are a few questions here that we can address. I think some of them have been addressed, but I'll go with Adil, who commented, very good talk, Shahid, as usual. One question, E&P sector, cold data. What is your advice? How to convert word by word learning into digital?
So Adil's question, excellent question, because E&P, cold data, and I cite the Ashok Bilani's 98% or whatever that number is. All it says is that there is far more cold data in our industry, because our industry has been a very old-fashioned industry. We have not adapted ourselves, even though we had 2008 crisis, we had 1985 crisis, we had major crisis, but we have quickly gone back to a lot of other things. But 2014 has started to make us change in those ones, and data analytics coming in. So yes, that data, which is still in a place where a repository exists and we can go onto it. So E&P industry has been using that. Shell and Exxon, for example, they took themselves in drilling, and they had a very key objective that how can we drill fast? That was the key, safely. Better quality bore hole, the dog legs will be minimized, and they used a lot of their old data to help them tune on what do they have to do to drill the new well, and use bare minimum data sets, maybe gamma rays, maybe cuttings, to help them smooth it out and increase their reduce their investment and increase their profitability in that way. So oil companies absolutely are going in, and plus Equinor, they changed their name. Why did they change their name from Statoil to Equinor? It was, we are in equilibrium with the environment and we are equal opportunity. Two different messages from the equi. And Norway, we are Norwegian, we have pride to be Norwegian. So this is, we are a national company which will make the environment green, so our footprint is different. So all those things were just given in because that's how you are marketing yourself. And then they started to go into Brazil and different places because they knew that they are going to expand themselves and they want to be perceived, the world is perceived as a greener company. So any company will look at their footprint and say, how can I minimize my carbon footprint? Look at available data, use the machine learning, and allow the machine learning to give me the workflow which will be the least intrusive. So excellent question, Adil.
Okay, and this is a question from Seva. I used to work for service companies, and it was hard to present any work outside because data and work was done for E&G companies. But I used ideas from projects and applied them either to public domain data from other areas or doing modeling work. That's really a question or a statement.
It is in a way a response to Salem's question that a service company, we find different avenues to publish because we are pushed to publish, especially if you are a technical person. So finding data released is the best way. If not, modeling work still needs, at one point model becomes a black magic. You need to go and say, oh, okay, give me, these are your models, so where do you apply? Application comes from data, which means that somewhere at one point in time, you will have your pre-dob, and then this is what it was applied, and we looked at it. So Shell, again, some oil company, Aramco is extremely busy. Actually, Aramco does a lot of their own modeling work, and they publish it. So yes, the comment was very valid that in service companies, we need a data release before we publish. Otherwise, we are sued. We cannot. So please go ahead. Any other question or comment?
And this is just, I guess, a follow-up from Seva, and the question you just commented. He's the editor of SEG/AAPG journal called Interpretation. The journal is always looking for ideas and special sections. I guess this is just to everyone. Journal certainly focused on geology and geophysics, but if you have ideas incorporating them in engineering or anything else, I think you could take a lead in organizing a special section of publication. Let me know. He's got his Gmail address, is seva@geoxpera.com, and you can look at that on the chat room. The next question is from Jorge Pinal. Going back to the water issue, can you clarify whether there is or not a water treatment process that is efficient enough to apply to well water?
Okay, let me, again, I'll go more in detail some other day on the water part, but just on what we are treating depends on what we are treating. Okay, so if you are treating in a place where there's mercury, water soluble, or some other trace elements, then the treating cost is going to be extremely high, right? So it's the water type that will decide offshore, onshore.
Shahid, you want to switch on to your computer audio?
You need to use your computer mic. No, not the speakers, but the mic.
He doesn't, he can't hear us? I think he knows that, but anyway, let me call him maybe.
Hello.
Shahid, this is Salim. Can you, if you're having a problem with that, can you go to your computer audio? We can't hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear him now.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, eventually. Okay. Back on water. So the geographical location makes a difference where we are trying to treat it. So treatment cost has that associated with it. But if you just go to type, if we were to re-inject, make use of it and re-inject it, there are Oman 15 years ago or 20 years ago started the project on downhole water separator. Right? So those things started that. What was the minimum ppm or ppb parts per million or parts per billion allowed for them to re-inject? And the government has a regulation. They have to prove that where they are injecting, if they are injecting into the aquifer, and that aquifer, where can it go? Are they contaminating the aquifer or not? If once they are proven, then you can go into that, and there are projects on that one. But most of the time, we bring the water to surface, we clean it, and we re-inject it. And when we are cleaning for, it depends on what we are cleaning for. CO2, if you are injecting in the same aquifer, it's different treatment cost to if you are injecting someone else's water into yours, because now compatibility or incompatibility scaling may come in. So you have to look for what kind of bisulfates you have, carbon, calcium, magnesium, whatever you have. So your treatment cost is a function of the type of water which is coming to you. So is it efficient enough? Yes, in certain places. And again, I have to pick a word. I'll say 20% plus minus, 1/5 more or less, are one land wells in less than $1. You can re-inject that water. But if you were to go and if you are offshore, then you are putting that water into a pipeline, and the pipeline cannot take, you're taking the volume. So you are paying a royalty on a volume, and eventually the slippage will come into play, the water holdup will come into play, the water scaling issues will come into play, the undulations of the pipe. If the water is lying on the pipe is lying on a water bed, then you can have hydration issues coming in. So all of those things can add to the cost. It becomes on the environment where you are. So not straightforward answer, but inshallah someday we will have a dip into water.
Okay, I've got another one here from James Rogerson. Throughout my career, I've had to reinvent myself at least 6 times. This is not unusual in this industry. If you were to pick one data analytic platform to learn, which one would you recommend?
So it's 6 is not enough.
you have to continuously upgrade yourself. And so frequency for me, every month is my monthly progress report. When I look at that one, and then Schlumberger allows us, because we are so much into objective driven, that at the end of the year, our objectives are looked at. We are given A, B, C, D classification and pay raise and negative things and all the other stuff. So we are tuned into that way of reinventing. So it's good that you have, but you have to evolve continuously. And the bend is the weakest point, so it has to be a very general change in your trajectory to make it smooth. Now, back on to the data analytics part. I'm not a software guy, so that definitely it is not for me. Investing into learning the language is not the thing. Is learning the workflow is the thing that I did not. I'm learning right now. How can I use these workflows in this data analytics from a data science perspective? And Adil pointed out to the driver of this one, which is cold data. So, and I take one deliverable at a time. So my first deliverable right now is that I want to minimize the in the reservoir engineering while drilling world. So this is how I am adapting to the as a formation tester. I am stationary. So how can I develop the workflow which will tell me how much time can I be stationary without getting stuck? That's a simple thing. And there is so much data available. So I am sitting with the people who have that expertise, and I'm trying to learn right now their way of looking at the things and finding out on different. We look at the mud losses. We were trying to figure out, can we put in one, they developed the scripts, but I am saying a dashboard. In my dashboard, can you work and filter out information and tell me which of this information has a direct link to the need I have? I'm just trying to understand from the data to the application link right now. And basics of data analytics was my part number one, because I need to understand how you analyze data. That's very low level for me. So from Ren, from your own side, I guess it comes down to your skill set, and zoom into your skill set, one of and link it to, if you were to bridge your skill set and be a data scientist, because you will be working with people who know how to manipulate data, and you will be guiding them what kind of proxies are there, because I don't know, running in carbonates. I take Super K is well known in Saudi Arabia environment. Super K is a very high permeability conduit. So where are these Super Ks? And eventually you realize that maybe the proxy lies in knowing where magnesium is, because calcium magnesium carbonate is dolomite, and dolomitic section in a limestone is where we have started to see this one. So if we can figure out from cuttings that we are getting, so how can I see cuttings? We are manually looking at the cuttings. No, why should I use my a face recognition on cuttings? And somewhere those cuttings are coming in, someone is analyzing it, and I tell them the cuttings with magnesium looks like this. These are the refractive indices it has, or whatever I'm doing with the cutting. Or maybe I will put an NMR over there, and that will help me. But something that can help me to find out K, find a magnesium, and then I relate to my magnesium and tell my development person who's drilling the well that, look, your completion has to incorporate this, because this is a potential Super K zone. Or maybe mud loss will come straight away, and you can start tying in. So that's how I'm putting myself, that there is so much data around me. Which of these data can link to the deliverable that I was an expert on? Because I will not get direct diagnostic anymore. I have to indirectly diagnose it. I hope I have not confused you enough.
Okay, I think in the interest of time, I think we're going to.
Alex, I have another question for him before.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay, go ahead.
Shahid, one other question is that at one point you mentioned that you like Stanford's program. They are changing their department's name from petroleum engineering to energy resources engineering, whereas UT Austin is still behind, and you are going to the different universities as well and giving lectures and presentations. Do you see, I personally think the energy resources engineering, where you have renewable and non-renewable solar and winds and nuclear, oil and gas, coal, etc., all of that could be, and instead of presenting ourselves as a petroleum engineer, it'd be better probably to present us as energy resources engineers.
Absolutely.
And to that extent, since you have gone to so many universities, where do you see the mindset of the people of those departments are at the moment, or the university itself?
University of Houston, seriously thinking. University of Texas at Austin, seriously thinking. The petroleum engineering department. They became, in the late 80s, 90s, they were petroleum engineering. They became geoscience. Then they put the gas over there because they realized that there's a market for gas and people should be able to say that, oh, I have a gas engineering degree also. And then it became a very generalist geoscience. So they are adapting, but Stanford were the first one amongst there are other, Deaf University and others, which have also started to work on energy resource engineering. So all the other sources are embedded into that one. And yes, different universities, if not this year, most likely this year, will LinkedIn, I think it's live right now. There's a gentleman from Pakistan. He put a graph day before yesterday or 5 days ago, something like that, in the last 1 week, where he's showing, he was asking that is the trend on the people taking the petroleum engineering courses now in universities going, they are bimodal. He says, is this the last, or is there another mode? Will be there another high? And essentially either the universities are changing their name or people are not going to go to petroleum engineering directly. So universities have realized that they cannot sustain their research work, get grant, if they are limited to oil companies only. Although oil companies themselves are becoming more energy companies also. But yes, names are changing and their course curriculum is changing. Unconventional came in some time ago, and now more and more in the electives, I guess, very soon you will start seeing Energy 101 as an elective.
Okay, thank you so much.
In interest of time, as Alex was putting here, Francisco has a comment that he's been wanting to get, and then we'll give the floor for Salim to get the final things.
Sahid.
Yes, sir.
You're a good guy.
I am Shahid Mashaf Shahaga.
Hey, you are very knowledgeable.
Thank you.
You are dynamic.
Thank you.
You are very passionate. And even virtually, your passion comes out of this. Man, I had to hold myself because you're coming out of the monitor to me. And you were good. Awesome. That was my kudos to you. I also have a comment and a question.
Yes, sir.
My comment is that I agree with you that praying is one of the most important things to have communication with God. But let's keep in mind that God answers all questions. Some are yes and some are no. And the question that I had, it was a very interesting one. When you were having the list of what was it? Just give me a second. I got the question here. When you had the list that you were doctor, you were chef, you were all of those nice things. May I make a suggestion to you? Have you thought about becoming also a kingmaker? You know what a kingmaker is?
Please educate me.
is someone like you, with all your experience, with everything that you have, but you use it to make other people and bring them to become kings. So you're no longer the king, you are making kings now. Make that, I suggest that to you. But thank you very much. You're a fine guy, man. I love your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Salim, I sent you a WhatsApp, if you don't mind
Okay.
giving. Yep.
Well, I think we have come to the end of our paid forward presentation and training of this Friday. I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart to Shahid for such wonderful presentations. I think it has so actively, emotionally presented to us. You showed your width and the breadth of your knowledge as well, and how actively you have been pursuing your dream within the Schlumberger and expanding the Schlumberger's your role in Schlumberger's, and really, I mean, inspiring the other people as well. So we would like to hear more from you in the future years and the future months as well. I mean, since you have the other presentation already that because of the lack of time, we couldn't do it because each of your presentation probably at least more than 2 hours. So hopefully, once the COVID-19 is over, hopefully we would be able to invite you back to a classroom sessions where you can more interactively present your other topic on which you are going worldwide as a distinguished lecturer of Society of Petroleum Engineers.
Yeah.
And let's keep up our dream as well as your dream, and let's hope that we can communicate with each other and help each other as best as we can. This is what Pay for Our Network is all about, helping each other out. With that, I would like to conclude my discussions on it. I would like to thank you again on behalf of Pay for Our Network. Please come back to us.
And before everyone goes on, who in the audience is from outside the United States? If you can turn on your video. Only those from outside the United States.
I know Adil is one.
Oh.
Turn on your video. Only those from outside the United States.
You can raise your hand probably, right?
Yeah, awesome. So you may want to, Chris, can you take a picture of this? Who in the audience is from outside the Houston area in the United States?
I think they were
Obviously, the rest are from the US. Would you mind turning on your video, all of you?
Alex?
Carlos, the presenter or somebody blocked my video.
For some reason, ACP shows very blurry.
Yeah, and I can't open mine, Carlos.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me.
Can you help him, Carlos?
Yes.
Okay, you're there.
I'm going to try to turn on everybody's.
Yeah, here.
Please. Hey.
Thank you very much, Shahid.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, I don't have Herman's nor Seva. But Chris, can you take a picture of that, please?
What's he doing?
James, for some reason, the background is showing very blurry.
James, you want to, let's see. You want to go back to your setting and change that. Okay, he changed.
Well, great, awesome.
Hey.
Chris, can you take a picture of that, please?
He sure was smiling. Keep your hands down.
And
try to look at the camera.
Yes. And I'm trying to unmute everybody. So anybody that would like to thank the presenters, obviously Salim and Shahid.
Thank you.
Maybe a round of applause.
Thanks, guys.
There you go.
Well job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Very much appreciated, Salim.
Very much
Thank
appreciated.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Our next presentation is on Friday the 17th. We have one speaker. I'm trying to get a second one. I'm in the process of doing that. And my Eventbrite, I'll notify you on that one.
Yes. Well, thank you all very much from the bottom of our heart. The Pay It Forward networking programs continues virtually, hopefully with the virus moving away, that we will be able to shake hands and give everybody hugs and Shahid, Salim, thank you so much for this. We will see you next time. Thank you all.
Welcome. Okay.
Thank you, Salim.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend. Guys.
Thank you, Carlos.
Enjoy it. Be safe.
Everybody stay safe.
Okay.